Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. Now, we begin here at home, where after some misgivings about President Tinubu's tax reforms, the Nigerian Governors Forum has finally bought into the idea. It says the country's tax system is long overdue for an urgent makeover. The umbrella body for the governors of the 36 states announced its revised position in Abuja at the end of a two-day subnational consultation with the Presidential Tax Reform Committee. Now, in a 5-point communique, the forum, chaired by Kwara State Governor Abdul Rahman Abdul Razak, expressed strong support for the comprehensive reform of what it described as Nigeria's archaic tax laws. Members of the forum acknowledged the importance of modernizing Nigeria's tax system to enhance fiscal stability and align with global best practices. The governors also expressed support for the continuation of the legislative process at the National Assembly, which will eventually result in the passage of the tax reform bills.
Also agreed that there should be no increase in VAT rate from 7.5% currently, or reduction in corporate income tax from the current 30% at this time, to maintain economic stability. The forum advocated the continued exemption of essential goods of agricultural produce from VAT so that we can continue to safeguard the welfare of the Nigerian citizens and promote agricultural activity.
Division of resources as follows: 50% based on equality, 30% based on derivation, and 20% based on population. Creation of the legislative process at the National Assembly that will culminate in the eventual passage of the tax reform bills into law.
Oh, some positive developments, certainly
Yes.
a step in the right direction.
All right, a great one to open up the year. The year is still quite fresh and nice. We've talked about the tax reform bill as proposed by the Presidential Committee on Tax Reform. And this is great news. One of the biggest bottlenecks faced by this reform, or by this bill, this executive bill now transmitted to the National Assembly, was the resistance by the governors. And in fact, the Nigerian Governors Forum, NGF, as chaired by the governor of Kwara State, as we saw there, had said that they should actually halt the process. And what we had consistently tried to do on the show is to educate people as to the benefits and the merits of this reform, of these bills. 4 bills transmitted. And the most important thing is that we had, talked about the governor's roles in this, how Mr. Taiwo Yedele, who chairs that committee, had said that he had tried to engage the governors at various times. They weren't available. So now that the hula baloo has come out and a lot of arguments back and forth has happened, the governors have finally come together, sat down, and now we have come to, hopefully, an agreement that would see the progression of this tax reform. I'd said it before that this might just be very well one of the big legacies of the Tinubu administration. We've talked about the tax system in Nigeria having been in dire need of reform, especially in the way that it affects the most vulnerable in society. And these tax bills address that. Now, this is not without some recommendations by the Governors Forum. Recall that during the first presidential media chat by the president this year, he had said that there was no going back on the bills, but he was open to dialogue, recommendations from the governors. And so great to see that they've deliberated on this, looked at the fine details critically, and come out with their own proposal. All things being equal, if these proposals are adopted, then we would see a progression of the tax bills. One of which, very importantly, and which was raised a number of times, is the proposed increase in VAT. Don't forget that the proposed increase in VAT would also count for a number of exemptions in some critical areas. So some food items, essential food items, transportation, utilities, things that about 80% of Nigeria use and drives inflation would be exempted from VAT. Also, what had been said is that Mr. Oyedele himself had said that the VATs coming down would impact the revenues received by the states. Therefore, it would be quite almost altruistic of them to, responsible of them to suggest a reduction or a lack of increase in the VAT, and this is what they have done. So I must commend them for that. It means that because of what it would mean on the pockets of the man on the streets, they're saying this is not the time, and I agree with them. as much as, yes, there's a justification for the increase in VAT to fill the gap between what would be exempted, less revenue coming in that way, it's the fact that a lot of increases that a lot of people are dealing with at the moment. At once, there's increase in petrol costs, so transportation costs have gone high. We've seen food inflation. We talked about the inflation numbers at 34.8% yesterday as released by NBS. We're facing a telecoms tariff increase up to 60%. So electricity increase as well as a result of the regulation of that sector. So everywhere you look at, it's increased tax, price increase. So this is one of their efforts or gestures to ensure that the most vulnerable are still protected, even though the tax reform bill would mean that people who are low-income earners would be exempted from paying taxes on their income. So less than 1 million naira, that's 83,000 naira, 83,000 per month. So good move, great to see that the North are in agreement. Governor Sule, who had also been very vocal of Nasarawa, very vocal about this, has come out to say that he was happy with this. So let's see how this will progress. But great news for Nigerians, great news for SMEs in Nigeria, and hopefully we can take this forward finally.
Absolutely. And, it's unfortunate that this came after quite a bit of a pushback, because the last time we had discussed the tax reform bills was after a conversation that Dr. Abati had with Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, where he had revealed that, in fact, the governors had not really given him the time of day with regards to unpacking these tax reform bills, meeting with him to engage on the issues and their concerns. But I'm glad that they corrected that. They've started the year with this engagement where they've come out with a bold statement and they've shared their position. And this is a great place for us to be able to take the public discourse forward. Now, what are the reservations that have been expressed in the public space? Well, they've been reiterated several times, but it's still important to unpack them because some of these reservations still continue to linger on. Now, the reservations border around historical imbalances. Now, when we speak of historical imbalances, they exist in several layers, especially when we are looking at the states that belong to the northern region of the nation. And these are the states that were kicking back the most and saying that they felt that it might lead to marginalization, that their people were not ready. I love the statement from Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, who says that, well, the Northerners were a little bit reluctant about these reforms because they felt that they were ill-prepared. However, she said, let's not forget what the Northern region is capable of. The Northern region is the same region that in 1959 exported a value of 27 million pounds of groundnuts to the UK. If you convert that to today's value, that's over 3 trillion naira worth of groundnut. Just one product exported to the United Kingdom. So she was reminding people that the North shouldn't, behave as though they have nothing to offer and there's no value to be extracted from the various states. They do have a competitive advantage in areas such as agriculture. And of course, we also know that a lot of the mineral wealth lies in this region as well. So what one needs to focus on are the solutions, which is, yes, fine, we've heard the lamentations about feeling that, oh, this is going to further impoverish the people in the North, and the concerns about what these bills, the direct impact that these bills would make to the livelihoods of the North. But I think it's time to start thinking in a solution-based manner. Yes, we've heard about the marginalization of various groups across Nigeria, but the governors, what solutions are they coming up with? Let's start holding the subnationals accountable, because after all, they are the CEOs of the land in their states. So yes, fine, there's this issue here and there. Some are even taking it as far as saying that there's marginalization with regards to the centralization of ports. No problem. What are your governors doing about it? So for me, this is refreshing to see that the governors are engaging. I hope 2025 is the year that will go down in history as the year that we held our governors, our subnationals accountable, because they really do get away with, they've held this bill back for how many months now? And purely because they had not engaged on it. So this is a step in the right direction. And again, the conversations around how to correct historical economic imbalances need to continue in a productive way, in a solution-focused way for all regions of the country. Now to some very cheerful news. The University of Lagos, UNILAG, on Thursday held a landmark convocation ceremony celebrating an impressive number of postgraduate students, including a record number of PhD graduates. Speaking at the event, the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Folashade Ogunshola, commended the graduates for their resilience and commitment to academic excellence despite Nigeria's challenging environment. She emphasized the importance of perseverance and integrity, values the university seeks to instill in its students. Ogunshola urged the graduates to prioritize the collective good of the nation, noting that true success lies in service to others. Among the distinguished graduates was Dr. Reuben Abati, an esteemed journalist and morning show anchor on Arise News, who earned a Master of International Law and Diplomacy degree. Reflecting on his achievement, Dr. Abati credited his unrelenting pursuit of knowledge as his motivation and encouraged younger generations to embrace lifelong learning. He also hinted at the possibility of pursuing yet another degree in the future.
Today was for our postgraduate students, and many of them have worked extremely hard. If you think about it, the fallout rate or the dropout rate for PhDs globally is about 40%. It's a tough journey, so I was very proud of those who did it, and it's harder in Nigeria because, again, it's a tough country. So I think what we had there was resilience and so on. And I think there was also, what you also saw was teams working behind the scenes to make sure this huge crowd was managed, and I think we got that as well. We keep trying to find ways to shorten the time, and so we looked at what we did today and learned some lessons again as to how to improve it. But today was a great day. It's the cap on everything we've been doing, and for a university that's transiting more to postgraduate, this was one of our highest numbers of PhDs, and I'm looking forward to more.
The search for knowledge, you can always learn. I mean, there was one of the graduating students, a professor in another university, who came to UNILAG to take a master's degree, already a professor. And what does that, say to us? Apart from that professor, I saw another guy who came to me, PhD holder, teaching at Maritime University. He also came here to do a master's degree in maritime finance. So, I mean, there's no end to knowledge. We learn throughout life. So you take one degree, you learn something there, you move to another one. After that one, you move to another one. Just, gaining knowledge, because education is a lifelong enterprise. And the thing to say is to encourage younger people to know that, there is no end to education, no end to knowledge, and you are not too big to keep learning. So after this one now, we'll go and get another degree somewhere in another subject.
Congratulations, yes. Especially like you said, he said he's going to go and get another one.
Why does he find the time to do that? I mean, I really, really celebrate the excellence, the doggedness, the intelligence, brilliance, actually, genius of Dr. Abati. It's an honor to be able to celebrate him because he's an ancestor. In this business, he's been here for so long and still has that thirst, that penchant for learning, and so that's really, really inspirational for us all, to see that there's no stopping him. And he's saying he's going to, I do believe he can actually get another one.
Yes,
that's the thing about it. So
why not?
Congratulations to the latest, greatest of the greatest of the greatest Akokite.
I don't know if the Malabites will let him go that easily. I don't know if the Malabites will let him go that easily.
Yeah, but also, I also want to recognize that UNILAG, University of Lagos, has, we saw the first female Vice-Chancellor, Professor Folashade Ogunshola, right there. So a lot of landmark things happening. But I think one of the, also some, we celebrated the honorary degrees, doctorate degrees given to Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Mr. Kola Adesina, and Mr. Fola Adeola. And if you ask me, very worthy. That's Mr. Fola Adeola right there. Very worthy. Oh, that's Mr. Wole Olanipekunde as well. That is Barrister Hundeyin as well.
Tunji Alausa, Minister Tunji Alausa
a really colorful ceremony. Honor well deserved. Congratulations to all the graduates.
Congratulations all.